Hi everyone, we're still discussing bacteria, and what we're going to move on to now is looking at how do bacteria feed. Bacteria live in or on their food. You can find bacteria in or on surfaces which are living and non-living things, right? So bacteria can thrive or live in or on their food. And how bacteria would feed is that they are going to release a substance called an enzyme. How enzymes work is that when the bacteria release those enzymes onto their food, the enzymes will then break down or digest the food, and further to that, the bacteria will then absorb the products of digestion. Right, so let's go through that once again. Bacteria live in or on their food. They are going to release enzymes into the food. The enzymes then digest or break down the food, and the products of digestion are absorbed by the bacteria. Next up, let's look at the shapes of bacteria. So bacteria come in three different but common shapes. And these three shapes, we are going to look at a simple name to describe the shapes. So one is referred to as spiral, right? So you just have this little squiggly structure here. Another name for a shape of a bacteria is called round. And then the third shape is referred to as rod-shaped. So these are the simple terms that you can use to describe the shape of bacteria: spiral, round, and rod-shaped. And next to their simple names would be the names that were used or are being used in medical journals, etc. So that's spirilla, cocci, bacilli, or the singular being bacillus. Right, so we're just going to look at a simple page just looking at three different bacteria, and the names of bacteria are based on their shapes. So bacillus here is rod shape. We have coccus, which is the round shape, and spirilla, which is the spiral shape. Right, so you just need to know the simple names for the shapes as well as be able to draw what the names of the shapes describe. Next up, we are going to look at some bacteria in particular, and there's two types of bacteria we need to look at. One is referred to as aerobic bacteria. The other is referred to as anaerobic bacteria. And these classifications of these two types of bacteria are based on respiration. So we are going to look at bacteria that respire aerobically versus bacteria that respire anaerobically. So there are two types. One is called aerobic and anaerobic. And what I need you to know is a simple definition of what is or what does aerobic bacteria mean, or what do aerobic bacteria do versus anaerobic bacteria. We would say that aerobic bacteria respire by requiring oxygen, or aerobic bacteria require oxygen to respire, and anaerobic bacteria do not require oxygen to respire. So let's go through that again. Aerobic bacteria require oxygen to respire, and anaerobic bacteria do not need oxygen to respire. So for example, why are we looking at aerobic versus anaerobic bacteria? We can use the two types of bacteria in order to break down sewage. Right, so we are just looking, and you also need to take it down, one simple use of aerobic and anaerobic bacteria would be the breakdown of organic sewage. Right, next up, let's look at how do these bacteria reproduce. And very funny enough, bacteria do multiply by dividing. So let's look at what this means. We say that bacteria reproduced asexually by binary fission. So the name of the type of reproduction is called binary fission. So if we start with one bacterium cell, it is going to produce a clone of itself. And this is referred to as binary fission. Now, in the two pictures that you're going to see here, we see how quickly bacterium can multiply and how quickly the numbers can grow. All right, so this is just a little more detail to show you how bacterium multiply by binary fission. You're going to need to take down this diagram here, which shows one bacterium cell, and you're going to take down the other diagram here to show how the genetic material or the nucleus divides. You're going to take down the third diagram just to show how the cytoplasm starts to split, and last but not least, we get two daughter cells. Right, so you're taking down this diagram for me as well as the labels. Right, and it just also re-emphasizes what is binary fission. So you're also going to take down a definition for binary fission, which is that binary fission is where one organism divides into two organisms. We are also going to take note in talking about this asexual reproduction of bacteria, also called binary fission, is that the rate of reproduction, that is the rate at which these bacteria multiply, depend on conditions. So we say bacteria will rapidly multiply or reproduce or undergo binary fission under three particular conditions. So that rate of reproduction increases when the conditions are warm, dark, and moist. And you're also going to take note of the fact that bacteria reproduce every 20 minutes. So generally, one bacterium will reproduce every 20 minutes, or every bacterium will reproduce every 20 minutes. So let's just take a further look into what it means for one bacterium to reproduce every 20 minutes. So if we start at minute 0, after 20 minutes, we're going to have 2. After another 20 minutes, these 2 bacterium are going to multiply to give us 4. These 4 bacterium after 20 minutes is going to give us 8. And therefore, after 80 minutes, how many bacteria are we going to have? So 8 by 2 should give me 16. Alright, so can you tell me how many bacteria we would have at 100 minutes? Right, so if you guessed it, so that means 16 multiplied by 2 should give us 32 bacteria. Right, you're also going to look at the question here. Can you give me an answer for how many bacteria we will have after 2 hours? Right, I want you to think about it. You're going to try the question. So if after 100 minutes we had 32 bacterium, after 120 minutes we should have 64 bacteria or bacterial cells. Right, so thank you everyone for watching.